said empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Be water, my friend.
Okay, happy to be in front of you. I'm not sure how many of you have been in London. Have you seen you speaking about the flow state then? And then I very much talked about the idea of the flow state out of, as Nikolai said, I was a former athlete, and the state of flow, which means that you're in this very high-performing state where your mental and physical performance skyrockets, your time dilates, where your concept of time, sometimes you have the freeze frame effect, sometimes you feel like you're in the matrix, and your ego vanishes, is oftentimes attributed to athletes or the military, to people in extreme situations. And after my presentation last time in London, many people approached me and they said, I have an office job, I'm working in a desk environment, and I don't get out into nature very much, and I don't like wingsuit jumping and do life-threatening situations. So how do I get more flow? And now let me start with asking you can raise your hand, how many of you say that you regularly get into the sort of a flow state while you're at work? So I'd say it's probably not even 20% right now who raise their hand. And that actually goes along with a study right now that says that about 20% of people at work get into the flow state. And the group that gets the most into it are actually extreme athletes or athletes, and the least are government employees. Which makes sense, but even them, they can also get into a flow state. And last time, I talked about a couple of triggers that work really well. And actually, the triggers that work the best are exposure to nature and life-threatening situations. And that makes sense. Like a big wave surfer or a snowboarder who does some free runs, they usually have a really easy time getting into flow. They don't have to do much. They just expose themselves to nature, to the situation, and they're in it. But how about someone who is at a desk? And now I'll give you a couple tips and methods and advice, 11 of them, that you can use in an office environment at work in order to trigger these flow states. Some are conceptual, some are nutritional, and some are a little weird. You'll see. So at first, you always need to decide what you want the flow state for. Because today it's really easy to shoot yourself sky high and then you come down hard if you don't have a purpose. So you need to decide, what do I actually want to do? There are substances out there, there's a lot of stuff, #Burning Man, that you can do in order to get yourself into an altered state. Many people can do that without really thinking about why they want to do that. So I am urging you, always decide what is your goal, what is the result that you want. And the next step is tied to that, which is really important, is the purpose. Why do you want that? So for example, that could be, the result could be, I need to finish the presentation for my talk. And my purpose would be to leave you with something actionable that you can take away from this conference, to do at home, and to get more flow. So thinking about this purpose will help me and help my subconscious already finding a solution how to best do that. Think about methods. So not only thinking about, okay, I need to finish my slides, I need to hand in my slides at 5 p.m. or 3 a.m. To Temu, so you can work with them, but also, okay, I need to really give something actionable to you guys, to my audience, or to me or something. So the next step, a really powerful tool that you can actually combine with meditation, and that's why I have this slide here, you can access your right brain, is visualization. And the problem oftentimes with flow is, or with flow situations, that you enter into situations that are quite stressful. So at work, you might have a deadline that you really don't believe you can meet. So by visualizing it, you actually take away a little bit of that fear. You address that fear, you go through the steps that you need to do, and by the time you get into that fight or flight situation at work, where there's only half an hour left and you have to finish the presentation and your boss is yelling at you and you really need some flow right now, then you already have visualized the steps, you went through them, and you can actually just start working without too much pressure. There's actually a sweet spot, so if you perceive your task to be about 4% more difficult than your actual skill level, this is a sweet spot that helps you get into flow. If it's too high, if you think, wow, this is almost impossible, your cortisol rises up and it's really hard to get into flow. Your adrenaline stays high, and you don't have that nitric oxide release to flush it out. So the next step would be to create a powerful routine, because we are creatures of habit. So if you need to convince yourself every day to get up, have your cup of coffee, go take a cold shower, that will cost too much of the decision-making energy that you need later for tasks that you actually want to accomplish. So someone like Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg, they're very known for, have been known for wearing the same clothes every day in order to really save that decision-making power. So what you could do, for example, I give you my morning routine, so I get up in the morning, I have a gratitude journal, I think about 3 things that I'm thankful for, I write them down. I do make my cup of coffee, that's sort of a meditative process, and then I take a cold shower, about 2 to 5 minutes. And after that, I'm ready to work. I make myself another cup of coffee, and that's my trigger to get into the flow state. Establishing a disruption-free zone is absolutely necessary, it's elementary, it's a no-brainer for flow, because flow always follows focus. You need to focus in order to get into that flow state, in order to have that nitric oxide release, the rush of dopamine, endorphins, serotonin, and really feel at this heightened level. So how do you do that? Many people in an office environment, they're always being disturbed by colleagues, they have their phones ringing, they have social media, so you need to really be actively involved in shutting these things off. Address your colleagues, ask them to leave you alone for half an hour, you need to work on something. Switch your phone into airplane mode. Get off social media. There are a couple of apps that help you to not access sites that you usually like to access. There's an app called Freedom. And I talk about this device in a little bit. This is actually one of the next things that also has establishing a disruption-free zone. This is essential, this is key. And for how long? That I'll also address in a minute, or actually right now. Because that's the so-called Pomodoro technique. And that was developed by an Italian called Francesco Cirillo, who used a tomato-shaped kitchen timer to time 25 minutes, and then after the 25 minutes, he took a 5-minute break. And this method turned out to be highly successful. There is a law called the Parkinson's law, which means if you have a lot of time, you will fill it with work. The more time you have, the more work you will find to fill it with. So he said, okay, I'm going to limit myself to 25 minutes. And any one of you, I hope, unless you're an emergency doctor, you can get away from your phone and switch into airplane mode for 25 minutes. If you need to be reached at work, you can then switch it back on, look if you got some messages, if you need to respond, and then switch it back off for 25 minutes. That's enough time to get into a flow state. It's almost, you have to think about it like falling asleep, like 7 to 11 minutes it takes to usually get in. Some people quicker, some later, but that usually gives you quite an amount of flow time where you can get some work done. That's one of my more recent fascinations. It's called binaural beats, and these are actually sounds that you can use to alter your brainwaves. And flow happens on 3 different levels: neuroanatomy, neurochemistry, and neuroelectricity. This refers to neuroelectricity. So usually we work when you have to deal with a lot of tasks and in a wake state, you're in a fairly fast theta wave, your brainwaves. Then when you get into a flow-like state, this is an alpha wave. And later, a slower wave is a theta wave, where you're in the meditative state, or in the dreaming state. And a delta, that is a very slow, deep sleep wave. And there's actually a way, usually your brainwaves react to the situation you're in. So you're required to think fast and think on the spot, and you get into theta wave, and sometimes you have these gamma spikes. But you can also work the other way around. And for me, this is a prime example of biohacking, where you understand the system and then you reverse engineer it. And what you do is, so binaural means 2, and bi, 2, oral, the ears. And you have 2 different sounds with 2 different frequencies in each ear. And your brain tries to make one sound out of them. And the frequency in between, for example, you have 12 hertz at the one level, and you have 20 hertz at the other ear. and then your brain makes up for the difference and forces your brain to have a dominant brainwave at the difference brainwave. And that way, you can actually make music that will initiate certain dominant brainwaves and help you get into, for example, an alpha state, which is related to flow, or in a theta state when you want to relax and calm down and get your cortisol low. So there's a lot of stuff out there on YouTube and SoundCloud already. You have to be a little careful because it's more powerful than you think. I just was in the sauna and had a discussion with someone who's really knowledgeable about some stuff that happened in our country, in Nazi Germany back in the day, where they manipulated their propaganda by using exactly this technology. So that is not that new. But it came up back again, and binaural beats is a great way to really alter your brain waves. And do some research, and I'll actually send you to a website where I'll present some binaural beats that you can then use for yourself to get into certain states. Also, one of my more favorite hacks right now is fasting intermittently, which relates to the ketogenic way of eating, meaning that you really reduce your carb intake and you increase your fat intake. And ketone bodies have been shown to increase your speed of mental processing. So not running on sugar and glucose and instead on fats is a great way of upgrading your mental performance. And fasting intermittently gets you into a ketotic state fairly quickly, a lot quicker than when you just reduce carbs. And that could mean, for example, I showed you, this is a bulletproof coffee that you're being served over there with MCT oil and butter. And MCT oil also has been shown to be metabolized quite quickly without using the pancreas and being metabolized into ketone bodies that the brain can use immediately, the mitochondria can use for energy. And that way you keep your blood sugar levels stable and you don't get these hunger cravings and you can concentrate for longer periods of time. And there are a couple of people here also at the summit, including the Grandmaster of Memory and Matthias Ribbing, who uses this way in the ketogenic diet before competitions. Novak Djokovic, the tennis player, now uses it, and he says he has longer concentration periods and also quicker times of recovery. And there are many other athletes. LeBron James, the basketball player, tried it out as well successfully. So this is number 8. So this is a little more freaky and quite controversial. It was on Shark Tank. Maybe some people heard about that. It's a friend of mine who developed a device called the Pavla, and that's an electric shocker that's hooked up with Bluetooth, and you can actually hook it up to your computer in order to get rid of bad habits. The science behind it is that in your basal ganglia back in your head, your habits are being created or get rid of. And it has been shown to be quite successful to use self-administered punishment to get rid of bad habits. So you can either press that button to shock yourself. Right now, actually, the battery is gone, so I can't do that on myself. But if you're interested, you can find me later. Or you can look it up, and whenever I access Facebook, it will give me a shock. And it trains you as well. So let's say you go on Facebook, and then you notice that you get shocked, and you close the window right away, it will give you a soft vibration in order to reward you. So that has been shown to work very effectively with people who want to quit smoking, and it's also with people who want to get off Facebook. So also one nutritional hack that I've come across, and I've just discussed it just before the presentation with Jaakko Halmetoja in order to verify that it's still valid, and it is. So there's a compound in chocolate called phenolphthalein, and this is related to this feeling of happiness and trust that usually is evoked by chocolate. At the same time, chocolate is also a monoamine oxidase inhibitor to a certain degree, but not very much. But by combining it with a stronger MAOI or monoamine oxidase inhibitor, you can keep the phenolphthalein longer in your body, because usually it's being broken down in your gut by monoamine oxidase B. And if you include the inhibitor, and a fantastic natural inhibitor is cinnamon. So if you combine cinnamon with a cacao extract of chocomine or cacao, then you can actually have this phenolphthalein or this endorphin effect of feeling happy and trustful and actually keep going at your work. So while you're working, and flow is also releasing endorphins in the process, keeping this phenolphthalein will actually increase your flow time. And that's a great nutritional hack. And my 11th, because I'm approaching the end of my presentation, but it's actually quite a bit faster than I thought, is limiting your resources. And that relates again to what I've mentioned before, the law of Parkinson, the Parkinson's law, that whatever resources you have, you will use. And this doesn't only relate to time, but also to finances or to input. And some provocative advice that I want to give you is read less. Because I think we are overwhelmed with stimuli. There's so much information pouring in that we become this replay machine that just replays information that is being given to us, and we don't process enough anymore. Because oftentimes, we actually, by thinking, we come up with our own ideas out of our own experiences. And so by maybe reading a little bit less and focusing on maybe if you read 2 books per month, or read 1 book per month, it might help you to get rid of that overwhelming sensory input. And again, with time, if you have a full day and you need to finish the presentation that you might be able to finish in 4 hours, you will use the whole day. So you can limit yourself. For example, you get up 7 in the morning and you say, by noon, I finish no matter what, I'm done. I need to find the photos for the presentation, I need to have all the text ready, and I send it out, and I won't work on it anymore. And it does work to a certain degree. So Parkinson's law, you will use the time that you have available, limit your own time, limit your own resources. This will force you, this is a great flow trigger, it will force you to work more creatively on solutions. Same with the budget. If you have a limited budget, you need to find creative solutions. You need to use the budget. Thank you very much. No, I'm not sure. I think I wrote it. But that was anyways my last slide. Ah, yeah. Okay. Because I have a website for you if you want the slides or any more information on the different topics that I've talked about. There it is. You can go to flowgrade.eu, that's my company. We try to flowgrade people instead of upgrading them, so really generating more flow. And right now there's just, I'll put up all the information later this weekend, so you'll find everything and some links to some binaural beats. And the slides as well if you want them. So feel free to check it out. Thank you very much.
Hi, Max.
Hi.
What's your evening routine then, if you have a morning routine?
Good question. Yeah, I have to admit, I'm my biggest client myself because I really struggle with organizing myself, and that's why this topic is so fascinating to me. And I think calming down, in the presentation before by Tim, you heard that restoring energy and repairing what we've been using is a big part. So for me, the evening routine includes really shutting down all technology. This is a big step for me. We're really getting, let's say after 6, I try really to shut down the computer and try not to have any technology around me that affects me. And I actually am a big fan of adaptogens. So you find them here, obviously in Finland, there are a couple companies using them. So adaptogens, by definition, are non-specific, and that they help balancing out your hormones. So they help lower your cortisol. I'm a big fan of reishi tea, which is really calm down, get down. And nowadays, because my parents happen to have a sauna and I spent some time there in my home in Bavaria, I love the combination of hot and cold at night, also calm down. And you're in Finland and you have the sauna here, I can only recommend you try it out. I just did it. It's amazing. It helps you. I think it just works where it has to work. If you need energy, you'll get energy. If you need to calm down, it helps you calm down. But that's usually the 2 things. So adaptogenic tea, some form of hot, cold, and getting rid of anything technological. Anything more? I don't see. I'm blinded by the light.
Hej Max!
Hej.
Very many. It's not nice to have you here in our awesome event. Hey, yeah, it's a very important thing you said about read less. So, would like to hear what kind of more practical things you have individually what you are doing, that you are not just getting the information and just saving it, work on for me, the Facebook account does the same in a lot of links, but interesting things. But yeah, it's a problem. Yeah, it's coming from all over the place.
Yeah, I know it's a little provocative, and I don't recommend to not read at all or not consume any information, but I noticed for myself that I've been consuming a lot of information out of habit. And then I noticed also around, in the circle around me that the people were consuming all the same information. We were listening to the same podcasts, reading the same books, discussing about the same ideas. And sometimes I think that you use a book or any information to just reflect information that you already somehow know and that's being verbalized by someone else. And then you find it and you say, okay, yeah, I already knew that, and someone else verbalized it for me. And I think by thinking and introspection, you can sometimes come up with these ideas and verbalize them for yourself. And I think this process, you lose that by consuming too much information. So by maybe consuming a little less information, focusing on a couple blocks, or also for the presentation, for example. There's a bunch of information that I could research on binaural beats or meditation, ketogenic diet, but you have to limit yourself to some sources and then get as much out of that as you can in order to maximize your resources, because it's overwhelming. There's too much out there right now, sensory overload, and I think meditation makes these Asian practices actually help to reduce the sensory input, and I think one way would also be to reduce the amount that you consume actively, like reading. All right. Wow. One more. How many of you, by the way, have been to the sauna already? Raise your hands. Yeah, a couple. Check it out. It's super cool. It's the first time I've seen it at a conference. I'm not sure if they had it last year.
So yeah, you mentioned meditation. What kind of meditation do you do, or you would recommend to increase, I don't know, your brain function so that you can enter the flow state faster or more efficiently?
Actually, I've heard different opinions about that. So the guys before me, they were briefly speaking about an app called Headspace, and this is mindfulness meditation. And I'm not a super meditation expert, but I usually differentiate between mindfulness meditation and transcendental meditation. And I've met people who said that it's, in order to create more focus, and focus is essential for flow, mindfulness meditation works wonders, because you actually can, for example, go through your body and scan through, and then really try to focus on certain emotions and certain perceptions, and that helps you also to make your brain more flexible and direct your focus in a more flexible way and like increase flow. This would be mindfulness meditation. And then there are others that they would say that you get in these deep theta states, in very meditative states and dreamy states, which also allow you to access flow states with transcendental meditation. And on my podcast, I had a meditation teacher for Vedic meditation, Emily Fletcher, and she's quite known in the field, and she would say that transcendental meditation is the way to go. So I would leave it open. I think try it out, whatever works for you. I'm a big proponent of mindfulness meditation because I do struggle with focusing. I usually have too much on my plate, and I'm pushing all the balls and trying to keep everything moving. And then mindfulness helps me to really think about what is the most important thing that I want to do, and why do I want to do that? Trying to think about the purpose. And so I recommend to you to try out Headspace or some form of mindfulness meditation.
So, a big hand for Mr. Maximilian.